Yes, we do. We need strategies. We need some strategies for living. And we just happen to have some. So are you ready? You ready for your daily dose of Radio Rehab?
I am ready. I'm ready today.
I knew that you would be ready today. Hey, folks, welcome into 1017 FM, 17 Keel. Welcome into another edition of Strategies for a Living. I'm Dr. David McMillan, and she who speaks is Lauren Leon McMillan.
I do.
Psychotherapist, PLPC. There you go.
Thank you.
You like that she who speaks?
Yeah.
Yeah. She who rules.
Okay.
How about that?
I don't know about that.
Yeah, well, hey, it's amazing to me. I've been thinking about our miraculous human system, our body, right?
Yes.
We've got this thing called the immune system that is phenomenal.
Yes, it is.
And if you think about it, I mean, and I know you've studied this scientifically, Lauren, but for many of us, we don't think about how powerful our immune system is. I mean, there's line upon line upon line of defenses. We've got the first line, which is our skin and our sweat and our tears and our stomach acid and all of that stuff, not to mention the tiny little hair-like structures that in the respiratory tract, right? Yeah. And then the second line of defense is the innate immune response, the inflammatory response, and the phagotes and the natural killer cells, and let's not forget fever.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then there's the third line of defense. There's the B cells and the T cells in our lymphocytes. There's the memory cells, and then there's the complement system, this protein in the blood that assists antibodies. And I mean, the thing is, it's the way it all works together is magnificent.
Yeah, we have a miraculous army or friendship of cells at our disposal at all times.
It's a shame
for us.
It's a shame we don't have that psychologically.
But we do, my friend. We have a great and wonderful psychological immune system.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And we would maybe talk about it this evening.
I think that's a great idea.
The psychological immune system: choice, voice, boundaries, balance. That's really our psychological immune system. And if you think of voice and choice and boundaries and balance, they really help protect us as we navigate through. We're going to talk about all of them today and more. And of course, since we are Strategies for Living, we will give some strategies along the way.
Sounds good.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Folks, thank you for joining us today here on Strategies for Living. We appreciate you being here, and we appreciate our sponsors making it possible. The Robinson Film Center, and Azalea Cleaners, and Learning RX, and Pintail Roofing, and the Balance Life Wellness Center. Back in a moment to learn about our amazing psychological immune system. Didn't know we had one, did you? Come back and find out all about it here on Strategies. Hey, let's talk about the Robinson Film Center. I say it a lot. There's no place like the Robinson.
Absolutely, there is not.
617 Texas Street, downtown Shreveport. You've got so much. You got the movies. You got Abby Singer's Bistro on the second floor of RFC, open for lunch and dinner Tuesday through Saturday.
Newly remodeled.
Absolutely. Great menu. RobinsonFilmCenter.org is the way you check it all out. You can go to RobinsonFilmCenter.org at any time and find out what movies are showing. Here's the deal. You want to join the crowd, join the fun, become a member. When you become a member, you become a star. You get discounts on movies, you get concession upgrades, you get bistro deals. RFC, 617 Texas Street in downtown Shreveport. I'll say it again. There's no place like the Robinson.
There is not, and I'm glad we have one right here.
Absolutely. The RobinsonFilmCenter.org.
Reading begins not in the classroom, but in your child's brain. I'm Dawnisa Walker with Learning RX Shreveport. If your child struggles to read, Maybe he or she has trouble focusing or comprehending. Learning RX Shreveport offers a science solution to reading problems, working one-on-one with your child, targeting his or her reading skills. Today, call Learning RX Shreveport. Make an appointment to have your child assessed. I know you want to help your child. So does Learning RX Shreveport.
And welcome into 101.7 FM, 710 Keel. Welcome into Strategies for Living. Lauren Leon McMillan and David McMillan. And, I was playing with this, Lauren, and you've heard me talk about voice, choice, boundaries, and balance for some time.
I have.
And I think I have to credit our good friend, the good doctor.
Dr. Sewell.
I think I've got to credit him.
Okay, yeah.
For at least some of that. I don't know if he gave me all 4 of these, but I know he gave at least 2 or 3 of them. Dr. Pat Sewell.
Yeah.
And anyway, you let it roll around in your head for a little while.
Yeah, over the years, I guess maybe it had something to do with in combination with my study of biology and neurology and all of that.
But I think, I remember when you first gave me the label, that's our psychological immune system.
Right, yeah.
And I remember thinking, wow. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what the voice, choice, balance, and boundaries are.
Right. Because I think you talked about them a lot in terms of relationships and healthy relationships. And so that's what a psychological immune system would do, right?
Right.
It provides that ability to connect without losing yourself. But first and foremost, we have a relationship with ourselves as well.
Right.
And so we also need to, promote and encourage our own healthy psychological immune system.
Yeah, and in fact, I wish we talked more about our physical immune systems. Because, I mean, again, we're miracles.
We
We're
are.
Phenomenal. And with all deference to the medical community, in the pharmaceutical community, we've
We've really done a number on it, especially I think with all of these new, immune suppressing.
drugs. I worry about
Yeah.
that, and I think you of course we want. We want if we've got a problem with eczema, we want it solved, and we want it solved now. If we've got a problem in our gut, we want it solved, and we want it solved now. But sometimes we need to, I think, take a step back and really look at the entire system, and be willing to at least educate ourselves on our systemic self, if you will.
Right.
And have
and our whole bodies.
Right.
Bodies plural, not just physical, but our mental and emotional bodies in combination with that.
and have the have enough knowledge to be able to ask our prescribers questions about instead of just blindly taking a prescription, but to be able to research it and then ask important questions.
And that so beautifully folds into these 4 components
It does.
of the psychological immune system.
The very first one is voice.
Right.
It's using the ability to use our voice in expressing who we are, our authentic self,
our
right?
thoughts, our feelings, our emotions.
Right. And so, think about it. To express yourself is fundamental
It is.
to our mental health. And expressing the self is not just about talking,
No.
right?
No.
It's about it's about whole behavior.
Right. I mean, if
talking's a piece of it.
Right,
It's
but
a part of it.
if we take the word back, express, it literally means to push out, right? And so
yeah.
in whatever form that may take, whether that's art, whether that's singing, whether that's music, whether that's the movement, the behaviors that you do with your body within means, as long as we're not hurting ourselves or other people,
Right.
it's very important that we be able to express the unique qualities that we all contain, because I truly believe those are the gifts that we are here in the world to present to each other.
Absolutely.
Is who we are.
It's who we are.
authentically.
So our voice represents really our ability, our capacity and ability to communicate our thoughts, our feelings, and what we perceive to be our needs
Yes.
and wants.
Oh, that's a big one.
And so it fosters a self-awareness and a connection with other people, which then protects against emotional isolation and feelings of powerlessness, right?
Right, because we're able to what one of us does not want or need to be heard,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
I mean, that is an inherent human need. It's a basic need.
Yeah, so self-expression is the ability to communicate
Right.
our beliefs, our feelings, and to do that openly, right?
Yeah, it's funny you started the program. I don't even know if you did this purposefully, but you introduced me as She Who Speaks.
I did well. Yeah.
And it really harkened to me back to the story my grandmother used to tell, right? Of me in preschool.
Yeah.
Because
For the longest time, you
I didn't
just
say I was
didn't
mute.
say a word.
I
Yeah.
was selectively mute
Right.
in preschool.
Well, they
Until-
thought you were.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
until one day, that's what selectively mute means,
Yeah,
Yeah. So until one day I raised my hand and answered a question, and all the kids came out to Carline saying, Lauren Leon can talk, right? And so I have a very personal connection with this
Sure.
piece of the psychological immune system.
Sure.
And the power that it brings.
It had to, I don't know if you remember the nuances of being little Lauren.
Yes.
And having the experience of hearing other people being amazed, Lauren Leon can talk. But that, at some level, whether you could communicate it or not, had to give you a boost of energy and confidence, right?
I suppose. I honestly don't remember that day.
Yeah.
I remember, bits and pieces of that time period.
I think another key component of voice has to do with assertiveness. So I'm not talking about aggressiveness.
No, there's
now.
a difference.
There's a big difference, and sometimes people mix it up. But assertiveness is advocating for oneself, especially in difficult or conflicting situations, right?
Yeah, and I think another nuance here, is if you are not used to being assertive can feel aggressive.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
and it's about being able to tease that out within yourselves and with others.
Yeah. And then there's the emotional validation, right? Getting the and that's where I was going with your story. You
Right.
know, getting the validation, receiving the acknowledgement and support. Hey, this was a good thing, right?
Right.
And that's just a human thing,
Yeah.
right?
Right. To
You
be
know,
recognized.
To be recognized.
Acknowledged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
And to know that your voice matters.
yeah. So that emotional validation is receiving that acknowledgement and support for your emotions from others and also from yourself,
Yeah.
right? From oneself.
It also it reminds me, and I'm not going to get it right, but it's harkens back to that quote by Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah.
Right, the one about choosing to remain silent when we can speak up for others.
Yeah.
And that's another piece of this, using your voice.
Yeah.
Learning to use it for yourself and for others.
And it impacts something that is extremely important in terms of when we talk about the psychological immune system.
Right.
This thing called resilience, right? So having a strong voice helps people navigate through. We've all experienced difficult emotions, right?
Right.
And we will again, because that's just part of the human condition. But to speak up in unhealthy situations and to seek out help,
Right.
also when it's needed, enhances resilience against psychological stressors, especially.
Right. And it's not, again, voice is not just necessarily, yes, for one, speak up and have your feelings be spoken aloud.
Right.
But also to express your feelings in whatever form they need to come out of you. I mean, that's part of also using your voice. I mean, we talk about artists and writers have a voice. Yeah.
Right.
And that's a piece of this,
Yeah.
being able to express authentically your voice, no matter what other people may think, knowing that if you are expressing it, there's someone out there who needs to hear that. You're not alone.
So some strategies, if you're thinking, well, my voice could use some strengthening.
Perhaps this part of your immune system is a little suppressed.
Maybe so. Well, what could you do? Some strategies might be to practice, active self-expression. How would you do that? Well, begin with safe people and have open communication. Perhaps even before, begin with yourself.
Yeah, I think
And
that's where I was going with that
and
one.
journal.
Yeah.
Because that's a practice of active self-expression.
And if we can't get it into the words, which I highly, of course, if you've been listening at all, recommend journaling. But if we can't even get it to words yet, a piece of practicing self-expression, is just to draw,
Right.
to art, to
Right.
if you play an instrument, play the instrument,
Right.
right?
And
use that as a jumping off point.
absolutely.
In order to put those emotions into words then.
Absolutely. Developing assertiveness skills. Some people, not everybody needs this, but some people need to shore up their skills with being assertive.
Yeah.
In other words, speak for yourself. Speak up. No, I don't like that. Even if, in the group you're voted down, you at least know, okay, I've expressed my opinion.
Right.
And then finally, encouraging environments where emotional expression is supported. Seek out
Right.
places where you can speak and others will listen.
Yeah. Whether that's a support group locally or online, or a therapist, a counselor.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's where it can start.
Yeah. And
or a trusted group of friends, or a priest, or a pastor.
or minister or imam or wherever you go.
Right.
But those are all strategies that will strengthen the voice. We're talking about, believe it or not, we have this miraculous physical immune system, but we have a psychological immune system too. Voice, choice, balance, and boundaries. We're going to continue to talk about it today here on Strategies for Living. Stay with us. More to come. Dealing with stress, pain, feel like you're running out of options? When your life is balanced, wellness is a given. True wellness is holistic. It's about the mind, the body, and the spirit, all in balance. Now, there's a place right here in Shreveport that's all about helping us achieve peak mental, emotional, and physical health. The Balanced Life, 117 Kings Highway, right next door to Strawn's. Come see and feel the difference getting your life in balance can be. Many of your friends and neighbors have already learned the difference less stress and pain mean in their lives. You can book a discovery session right now online, thebalancedlife.us. All you've got to lose is stress, pain, or maybe both. Come see and feel for yourself the real difference balanced wellness makes. The Balanced Life Wellness Center, 117 Kings Highway in Shreveport, next door to Strawn's. thebalancedlife.us. And welcome back into Strategies for Living here on 101.7 FM, 710 Keel. Lauren Leon McMillan, David McMillan. We're talking about psychological immune system.
That's right.
Yeah. We have a psychological immune system, it turns out. Choice, voice, balance, and boundaries. And as important, hopefully we know how important our physical immune system is. And if we don't, well, I don't want to get off on this, but I do think we need to spend more time educating all of us on the importance of and how to keep our immune system, our physical immune system, healthy. In that same way, we're recognizing that, okay, well, we also have this psychological immune system, and we need to tend to it. So choice. When we talk about choice, what are we really talking about here?
Your ability to make decisions, your autonomy.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The degree to which you feel in control of your own life and decision.
Yeah.
And I think, there are a great many of us who feel out of control. And I can understand in the recent times, right? We can feel often out of control.
Sure.
But I would redirect them to your psychological immune system.
Yeah.
Where you truly do always have this beautiful mechanism and process of choice. You do have this decision and ability to change your inner world, to control your inner world, how you...
Yeah, we can't always control out there. We say this a lot because I think it's so important. We can't control out there, but what we forget is how much control we have in here.
Right. And
inside.
even on the day-to-day, the choices we make, people often take for granted how many decisions we make throughout a single day, right? Even when to wake up, what to eat for breakfast, am I going to go exercise before I go to work or whatever else, right?
Yeah.
What do I watch on TV? What do I fill my home with in terms of the environment? All of those are great places to start expressing and contemplating, okay, where am I giving away this choice that I truly have?
Absolutely. So you begin to think about what personal autonomy is and our ability to make those decisions within our lives that are going to reflect our values, our desires, because I mentioned personal agency. Choice is autonomy. It's personal agency.
Right.
So personal agency is, it's our sense of freedom. It's reducing our feelings of helplessness, and it's improving our motivation, our internal motivation. So even if we, certainly being part of life, we're interacting with other people. If we have, let's say, a job, there are some dictates that there's some givens. If we're in school, if we have a job, well, you have, the expectation is that you're to be at work at 9 o'clock, right?
Well, and I would challenge that also. Even though there are expectations, you still always, always, always have the choice.
Yeah.
I mean, although you are expected to show up at work at a particular time, and I'm not encouraging this, you always have the choice to show up late or to show up early.
You may have
you'll face some consequences.
You need to be willing and ready to face the consequences.
Right.
But you're right. Yeah, it's still your choice.
In recognizing that, I hope people can become empowered, because it's that ability to say, I don't have to go to work.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I do choose to because XYZ, because of the money that it brings in, and because it fulfills this part in my life and helps me to live the life that I want to live.
Right.
Right?
So we've got, this idea of self-determination, which is we do own our choice. And I think that's the point you're making.
Yeah.
We do own our choices and our behaviors and the outcomes, right?
Right.
And so that is empowerment. That's a sense of feeling capable of influencing our environment and our future.
Right.
You know, and we may not be able to snap our fingers just like that and change things, but over time, if we understand the level of autonomy and our sense of self-determination, our sense of empowerment, then we actually are very powerful beings.
We are great, powerful beings.
And so many times we give that away mentally.
Yes, we
right?
do, because we buy into so many beliefs that say, I have to do this, or he or she made me do this. And that is never the case.
No. But when people perceive that they have control over circumstances, well, they're more likely to manage the stress in their life more effectively. They're more likely to navigate through the challenges of life and maintain a positive outlook. Now, if you're hearing us and you're saying, well, okay, I was okay at the voice thing, but this choice thing,
I don't have a choice.
I
don't
need some
feel like
strategies.
yeah.
So what would some strategies be to strengthen choice? You kind of leaned into this a moment ago.
Yeah.
Really take a step back, clear your mind, and be aware of all the many, many, many choices you make. You may make them at the unconscious, habitually, unconsciously, but they're choices.
They are, absolutely.
Let me give an example. Let me give a quick example of this. If I were to compliment you, you would most likely make the choice of being flattered.
Okay.
If I were to insult you, you would most likely make the choice of being insulted, right?
Right.
But think about that. Those are
still have a
choices.
choice. Yes,
I could insult you, and you could make the choice to say, well, I know he's off his rocker.
Right.
I know I'm okay.
That's not true.
That must be about him.
Right.
The same with the compliment.
And we see that a lot.
I could compliment you, and you could
reject
make
the
the
compliment.
choice of not accepting that compliment.
Right.
So, but we likely, habitually make the choice of either being flattered or being insulted.
Right.
But those are choices.
Absolutely.
We simply make them unconsciously. And so in a moment, right? And so we don't recognize that they are choices, and indeed they are.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. So again, just understanding, how many choices and taking ownership of those.
That's such an excellent and simple example that everyone can relate to, and from there grows all other choices that we make in our life in that same way.
Right.
No matter what other people do, we make the choice to interpret them the way that we do.
Right. And then I think it's important strategically, strategy-wise, to spend a little time reflecting on what are my personal values?
Right.
What is truly valuable to me? And then aligning decisions in accordance with that.
I think in that way, these two kind of build on each other,
Yeah.
the voice-choice pairing, because you have to be able to use your voice and to truly know who you are and what you believe in.
Absolutely.
In order to then follow through on choices that would align with your authentic voice.
All right, so let's start talking about boundaries now. They're a part of the psychological immune system.
Yes.
Voice, choice, boundaries, and balance. So we talk a lot about boundaries a lot. They are absolutely essential for our emotional safety, our personal well-being, because we not to get off into politics, but we're talking lots about boundaries right now in terms of our borders, right? And so I'll just leave it right there,
thanks.
because people have that. People, there's enough of that talk. But why is that so important? It's so important because we understand we understand how essential boundaries are for maintaining safety and well-being, both on a personal level and perhaps on a collective level, because they define where one person ends and another person begins.
And they don't necessarily have to be, solid boundaries. They don't have to be necessarily a solid line wall between you and I. They can be movable. They can be mesh. They can
absolutely.
be breathable with a gate.
Well, and again, I don't want to get off into politics, but we talk about the wall. Well, those walls aren't really walls in the sense they're if they were walls, there wouldn't be any gateways, and there are gateways in those structures. And so again, I'll just leave the politics right there, because
that's what you said a few minutes ago.
I know, but it was too, it's too
entangled.
And
it is interesting, that we're dealing with that on a collective level too.
Exactly,
right?
That's my point. That's my point.
We've got a collective psychological immune system battle, perhaps,
whether we're aware of it or not.
Okay.
So I mean, there's different types of boundaries that we need to talk about. Because the boundary, if we're looking at where I end and you begin, it helps protect mental, emotional, and physical space from encroachment. And in fact, sometimes we need to do the work first to understand.
Right. I love how all of these build on each other, right?
Yes,
I have to know my voice authentically in order to make choices that align. And then from there, I can set boundaries with myself and others to protect my voices and my choices.
Absolutely. And we got to take a break here, but when we come back, we'll talk about the different types of boundaries, because it's important to understand, if we're talking about boundaries, well, there are physical boundaries, and we understand those, but there's also emotional boundaries, and there's mental, cognitive boundaries. We'll come back and we'll talk about all of those and give some strategies, because again, boundaries may be a place that needs some help. Well, we'll talk about some strategies when we come back. Talking about the psychological immune system. What? We've got a psychological immune system? Choice, voice, balance, and boundaries. Talking about that today here on Strategies. Stay with us. You're going to see the difference. When you go to Azalea Cleaners, you'll hear about it too. Azalea Cleaners has been fine dry cleaning since 1958, plus laundry, alterations and repairs, comforters, wedding gown cleaning and restoration. You'll hear about it from your friends because they'll see it too. They'll notice the Azalea difference. Azalea is convenient. 732 Azalea Drive, 9220 Ellerby Road, and 9227 Mansfield Road. Plus, the front door of your home or business with Azalea's delivery on demand. Just text SETUP to 249-8283, and Azalea will pick up your clothes and deliver them back clean and fresh to you. You can't get closer than that. That's the Azalea difference. You'll notice it right away. Others will too. The Azalea difference. Fine dry cleaning since 1958. Text SETUP to 249-8283 and get the Azalea difference. AzaleaCleaners.com. And welcome back into 101.7 FM, 710 Keel. Welcome back into Strategies for Living. Psychotherapists Lauren Leon McMillan, David McMillan here on Strategies, talking about our psychological immune system. Yeah, we've got one. Choice, voice, balance, and boundaries. And we're talking about boundaries right now. We said we'd come back and talk about, there's emotional boundaries, which is protecting our emotional needs and our emotional space, right?
Right.
Then, of course, physical boundaries, we understand that, I think, for the most part, maintaining appropriate levels of privacy, of physical distance.
I think we
don't
do-
get in my space.
I think we do understand that, but I think we lack training and practice in really enacting those. And I'm talking even starting from a young age.
Yeah.
Very, very young.
Yeah.
When we're forced to give hugs or kisses to people as
Yeah.
kids even.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
can
That can-
mess,
yeah.
mess with that initial being able to use your voice and choice to
Absolutely.
set boundaries, physical
Absolutely.
boundaries.
And then there's our cognitive boundaries, our thought boundaries, if you were, differentiating one person's thoughts and opinions and beliefs from others, even in close relationships. And I think we're seeing that challenged right now. I'll leave it right there because I don't want to go off into that. But we've done programs in that, and we'll probably do more in the coming days. But we need to understand that it's okay.
It's absolutely okay.
It's okay
to
for
have
us to
different-
think differently and have different opinions.
And to actually expect and know that other people think differently. I think, you mentioned in close relationships, and
Yeah.
I think in those sort of relationships, we can often get caught up in assuming or, assuming we know what the other one is thinking
Yeah.
if we've been around them a while. And I think it's so important to continue to keep that in check.
Some strategies to strengthen our boundaries is to practice saying no when I need to. Here's the kicker: without guilt.
I'm going to challenge that. I agree totally, but I would say first we need to practice saying no with guilt.
Yeah,
because the
and
guilt's going
move-
to be there
yeah.
if it's habitual.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so to be able to say no, hold the guilt, know that it's a habitual guilt that we are protecting and holding space for while saying no.
Yep.
In order to move towards a place where eventually we are able then to successfully say no without the guilt anymore.
And I think also another strategy is to practice caring for yourself, self-care,
Absolutely.
that includes boundary setting, particularly in relationships. We're relationship people. We're
in relationship with everything.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only way we exist because I am in relationship to anything and everything else. We're in the world of the relative, yeah?
And so it's really, really important to recognize and communicate our personal limits. Let's move on to balance.
Okay.
All right. So voice, choice, boundaries, balance. So this thing called balance is about sustaining our mental and our emotional equilibrium. I mean, we're all kind of,
Homeostasis.
we're all kind of fascinated when we go watch somebody walk on a high wire, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think we appreciate how much we all walk on a high
sure,
wire.
yeah, right.
And we don't give ourselves enough credit, for we're doing this without a net.
Yeah.
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 And we marvel, at somebody, up with a line between two tall buildings, right? And
right.
working without a net. And yet we're all working without a net.
Right.
And so we need to acknowledge that, give ourselves the credit for that. Because our balance is the ability to manage different aspects of life: work, relationships, personal growth. To manage that without being overwhelmed. So it involves learning to manage stress, to nurture our mental and physical health, and to maintain a healthy perspective on the demands of life. You and I were having a conversation, yesterday, I think, about work.
Right.
And
yeah.
and I said, well, I think of that a little bit differently, and you said you do.
Yeah,
And I
this
said,
was a beautiful take. I really loved it.
and I said, yeah, I really think of the different things that I don't really work anymore. And I truly don't.
Yeah.
In my frame, and that, there's several hours that are committed to clients, to radio,
Right.
but
Projects.
I don't think of it in my mind. I'm doing the things that I want to be doing.
Right.
And so I don't to me, it's my own personal deal.
It's your choice.
It's my choice.
Yeah.
I don't see it as work.
Right.
You know? I'm of the age, I suppose, that if I wanted to, I could just stop. I don't see that ever happening. You know, I mean, you know, if I'm in bed, I'm going to say, Lauren, bring me that microphone over here and crank the radio up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope that's what I'll do
so.
anyway. Yeah.
I will gladly tote the portable recorder.
There you go. So,
And
you know,
board.
one important piece of this is we talk about this some on strategies is you know, EQ. It's emotional. It's learning how to regulate ourselves emotionally, managing our emotions in a way that avoids the extreme, keeps us away from either chronic stress or emotional suppression.
Right.
And neither one of us is good for that. Neither one of those things is good for us. Yeah. So, what are some strategies if we need to strengthen balance? Well, self-care, taking care of ourselves. Sometimes, we need to get away.
And what that starts with, especially in regards to balance, self-care starts with really, really getting curious and aware of where in my life do I need the most care right now. Because part of balance and part of self-care, there's different, just like us, we're multidimensional.
Yeah.
And so there's multidimensional aspects of self-care and of balance.
Yep.
So that we can hold it all in balance,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And so if I find myself overly involved in, in the mind, I want to go out and do some self-care some bodily self-care.
There you go. Yes.
Does that make sense? So I
Makes
want to
total
balance
sense.
that out.
Yep.
Or if I find myself overly physically tired, overly physically exerting, say I have a very physical job, I might want to stimulate my brain with some crossword puzzles, or
There
I
you
might
go.
want to engage in a more spiritual practice.
I think it's also important to regularly tune in and assess and adjust the priorities in our life.
Oh, yes.
I think that's an important strategy. And then, just learning how to, for ourselves, manage stress effectively. That, giving ourselves restorative breaks. There's a place in the Bible, in the New Testament, where Jesus is, people are coming and the disciples are all excited and they're all, getting stressed out about what we're going to do to prepare for all these. And Jesus says, basically, nothing. No, we're going to the mountains.
Yeah, we got to take a break.
We're taking a break. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's absolutely a brilliant illustration of what we're talking about today. Our psychological immune system. Yeah, we've got one. Choice, voice, balance, boundaries. Talking about that today here on Strategies for Living. We'll be back.
Hi, this is Jay Merle for Pintail Roofing. Let's talk about quality. When you hire Pintail to build your roof, here's what you can expect. Quality and quality control are the most important concerns for us at Pintail, and you need to know that Pintail stands tall with swift and professional performance on any warranty call. This is our most important policy. And remember, we're your neighbors. We'll be here for you for the long haul. Our family's lived here for over 100 years, and we aren't going anywhere. On the commercial side of Pintail's business, our fluid-applied roofing solutions can save thousands of dollars over conventional commercial roofing options. Call Pintail at 226-ROOF for a free inspection of your home or commercial building. That's 226-7663. Pintail Roofing. What's the condition of your roof?
And welcome back. Welcome back into Strategies for Living. Our psychological immune system, voice, choice, boundaries, and balance, so we can build a robust psychological immune system.
It's beautiful because just like the physical immune system, they build and they cooperate with each other synergistically.
Absolutely.
Right? In conjunction. And just like we have the first line of defense in our physical immune system, a second and a third,
Yep.
and then the complementary.
Right.
We have the same building foundation within these,
That we
which
do.
are, because voice will enhance choice
Yep.
by enabling the person to advocate, to know who they are, and to speak for their needs,
Right.
and to make those choices in alignment with their authentic voice.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And then choice is going to support your ability to set clear boundaries
Yep.
by making those choices in
Yeah.
alignment.
Yeah.
And then finally, boundaries, right? They can help maintain balance by preventing the overload and stress.
So there's a synergy here, just like in the physical immune system. There's this synergy. I love that word. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts, right?
Right.
And so it works together. Together, choice, voice, balance, and boundaries empower people to protect their mental, their emotional well-being, and foster resilience and promoting really overall psychological health. So they are
the immune system.
they're a psychological immune system.
Right.
They truly are. Choice, voice,
how is
balance, and
yours?
boundaries.
And how can you support it?
Good question. Good thing we're out of time, so I don't have time to answer. See, I'm out of trouble again, folks. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to Strategies for Living. We appreciate you being here with us. And we appreciate our sponsors making it possible. The Robinson Film Center and Azalea Cleaners and Learning RX and Pintail Roofing and the Balanced Life Wellness Center. If today were the last day of your life, you only had one more phone call to make, who would you call? What would you say? And why are you waiting? Make the call. For Lauren Leon McMillan, I'm David McMillan. See you next time right here on Strategies for Living.